Turkey's democracy may be in turmoil, but President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's AKP government might hope to at least lean on a strong business reputation for support. But Turkey's previously strong economy may no longer be such a safe bet. Old threats have reemerged.
You have very little private investment. You have zero or negative productivity growth.
While new challenges come to light.
Turkey opened its borders for millions of refugees to come, but a lot of people did not really open their hearts.
And Turkey's economy is at the crossroads. Turks may be divided on President Erdogan, but they usually agree on one thing. In his early years, his administration was great for the economy. I spoke with Duran Acemoglu, a Turkish economist and author of Why Nations Fail.
When the AKP first came to power, this was growth of much higher quality. You see, it was fueled by investment. You had this economic growth took place for about 5 years at rates that were, pretty unusual for Turkey for such, extended periods of time.
During this heady growth period, the government kept inflation low and its fiscal house in order. Business, especially business in the conservative heartland, flourished. I met with Musiad, a trade organization with close ties to the government.
The AKP has done it well, I guess. What can I say? Especially the economic ranges or economic numbers.
Anatolian tigers, Islamic Calvinists. Call it what you want, but call it with caution. Some signs suggest the economy is losing steam. Turkey is still growing, but it's no longer that high-quality production-led growth. Instead, it's based on consumption, credit, government-led construction. That can't last forever.
Since about 2007 onward, what we have seen is a very different type of growth. It's a credit, consumption-led, government-supported economic growth, fueled by current account deficits. And, the overall picture that emerges is that this is the type of growth that neither will last, nor will it really help Turkey go to the next stage of economic development.
In a general context beyond Turkey, I asked economist Jeffrey Sachs what happens when growth is not built on long-term sustainability.
I think the idea of growing the pie and then doing something afterward may be akin to being on a winding mountain road and you're trying to go to the top of the mountain and you say, we're just going to floor it for a while. We'll steer later.
Turkey's complicated region has spillover effects on its economy. So let's take a brief tour around its neighborhood. In the early years, Erdogan looked at the Middle East as a growing trading partner for Turkish goods. Between 2006 and 2010, Turkish exports to Syria more than tripled. But since the onset of civil war in Syria, those numbers have fallen by almost half. But the issues run deeper than trade. For one, spillover security risks have become a major burden for Turkey's massive tourism industry. Tourism contributes about 12% of Turkish GDP, but since a series of terrorist attacks, receipts are way down.
So there are 50% less tourists visiting the southern cities in Turkey. So it's a very alarming sign. Many hotels and many tourism resorts are at the edge of bankruptcy in the country.
I spoke to a specialty soap vendor in the southeast, where business is suffering.
Terör olayları bayağı bölgede etkin oldu. Bir de basın sağ olsun ne oluyorsa Mardin diyorlar. Halbuki merkezde herhangi bir olay olmaz.
But there's another spillover effect. Prolonged violence in the Middle East has led millions to seek refuge in Turkey. A deal between Ankara and the EU makes it much harder for them to move on to Europe, and many are stuck in Turkey, where they struggle to find work. This is Mona Bitar. Her son was gravely wounded in Aleppo.
أنا اسمي منى بيطار من مدينة حلب. طلعت من حلب أنا وولادي الستة جوزي بسبب الحرب. بس دخلت 14/5/2013 دخلت فيه. بيقدروا يدرسوا لأني عم بيشتغلوا والله أنا في مجال العمل. لما عم بيشتغلوا ما بيقدروا يدرسوا يعني هم الشغل 12 ساعة حتى نعمل أجازة.
Now Muna, along with these other Syrian women, earn what they can, knitting and weaving in Istanbul. Aus Jubiar is an Iraqi refugee.
Turkey opened its borders for millions of refugees to come, but at the same time I feel like they opened the borders, but a lot of people did not really open their hearts. Usually they associate refugees with being poor or being uneducated, and that's not the case. I applied for a job as an English teacher, and they simply refused to give me the job because I was from Iraq. And we were looking for an apartment, me and my family, and they told us more than once that they are not willing to rent us because we are refugees.
Turkey may be missing major economic opportunities here. For example, meet Liam, a business administration graduate from Syria who spent a month in Assad's jails before seeking refuge in Turkey. His plans to move on to Europe were thwarted.
The boat was full of people. It was about 7 meters long. They put around 65 people in that boat, and we refused to get in the boat. So then we tried from another destination. We tried from Izmir. We took a boat, bigger boat with less people, but the weather was so bad and the boat started droning in the sea. We were so lucky that there was a Turkish fishing boat who saved us. Now I'm doing nothing, I'm just volunteering, but many Syrians here are now getting job permissions, so they can't work. And this is one of the negative sides. Here I'm not registered as a refugee. I don't have a permission to stay or permission to work, so I got no choice.
Turkey's economic ties to its neighbors to the west can be equally complicated. Spiking trade with the EU was a key ingredient to the Erdogan boom years. Between 2003 and 2008, exports to the EU increased over 300%. Since then, they have increased just 7%. Now, part of that is due to Europe's economic slump, but part of it is also political. Turkey has sought to join the European Union for years, but as that becomes increasingly unlikely, the two sides have drifted apart.
Europe stopped being a promise for Turkey. First of all, Europe began to put hurdles on Turkey's continued progress towards Europe. In fact, there are many people who believe that the singular responsible party in Turkey's turn in the wrong direction is Europe, because the bait of Europe was what liberalizing Turkish law.
So I think there was a mutual falling out. It must be said, Europe did not handle it very well and pushed Turkey away. Not that I disagree with Europe's concerns at the time, especially on human rights, but it was definitely badly handled, especially, big shifts in France and Germany, very badly felt in Turkey.
They always say, you must do something, you must do something, and Turkey became angry.
In the current environment, Erdogan is no longer striving to prove Turkey is ready for the EU, something that German Bundestag member Niels Ahnen believes will make accession even less likely.
I'm not naive. I don't believe that is going to happen within the next years. In particular, this different direction away from Europe, away from our values and our ideas, is not in our own interest.
From a purely economic perspective, a political falling out would be a shame. Our Global Economic Dynamics team worked with Turkish economist Erdal Yalçın to measure the importance of trade relations.
So you can clearly show, and in our study we do this, the European Union is Turkey's most important trading partner, and it has been the case for the last decade. So 40%, for example, of Turkey's exports go to European countries. The manufacturing industry plays a dominant role here, and there Turkey has become increasingly part of the production chains of European multinational enterprises.
An inability to deepen political ties could threaten these economic links.
I see a membership of Turkey in the European Union as crucial, in that way that in areas where membership makes sense, For example, deepening the customs union, improving the investment environment. That makes sense.
But this is not the direction the country is headed. And behind the political crossroads of the front pages, Turkey barrels down on an economic crossroads that approaches from around the bend.